Hey guys, my name's Dan. We have a lot to talk about, beginning with an article from Newsweek that deserves a discussion. You're watching Doublespeak. Okay, really glad you're here. If you haven't yet, please like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell notification. We're going to begin with an article from Newsweek. The title reads, "The right's fixation on the gender identity of the Nashville killer is disgusting and telling." Quote, "It seems that these far right-wing critics, when a killer is trans, their crime occurs because of their being trans. But when a killer isn't trans, their gender identity becomes irrelevant. This makes no sense. After all, using similar reasoning, we could point to all the killers who aren't transgender and argue that people who aren't transgender are prone to violence. We don't see headlines like heterosexual cisgender male committing shooting for the overwhelming majority of cases where that's true. So why is it more notable when the person is transgender?" They go on to say, in other words, if this shooting is evidence that transgender people are violent, why aren't all the other shootings evidence that cisgender people are violent? And to that, I do have something to say. Okay. Uh, it's gross and unforgivable that Newsweek is still, even before the dead are buried, defending the pronouns of a murderer who gunned down 3 children and 3 adults. They can argue otherwise, that they're not doing that through veiled paragraphs, of which the page is littered with words like cisgender and titles we never consented to. Funny how we're supposed to use their invented words with respect to them, but we're bigots even as they redefine not only theirs, but also our words and familial systems on which families and science and society are built upon, and which 99% of the world has used and abided by for thousands of years until precisely 5 minutes ago. And I mean Newsweek, they're ideologues who will defend a person's pronouns even as he or she is reloading the weapon. They thrive on the notion that silence is violence. Trans people, they thrive on the notion that words are violence. Dead naming is violence. Not affirming a child's desire to undergo chemical castration is violence. That we're always committing violence upon them. And that's it, isn't it? That's the rub. They'll argue disingenuously that trans people are being murdered in the streets as if there's a Holocaust happening real time. All evidence to the contrary. The problem is only further compounded when what they mean to say is that words are violence. And by saying, "No, you cannot speak to my child about your genitals, you absolute pervert," well, through their lens, violence has just occurred. And all that's left is to defend themselves. After all, if someone broke into my house with an axe bent on murdering my family, I would dispatch them without any hesitation. And similarly, it seems, if trans people find literal violence in words, well, then they're obligated to gun us down in the same fashion. And that's why it matters that this person was trans. It could have been a white supremacist, an Islamic terrorist, or even a Christian with schizophrenia. In every case, there would be a manifesto, if not written on paper, then etched into their cold black hearts. However demented, the reason exists all the same. Now, if it had been an Islamic terrorist who killed those kids, and as has happened before, we would inquire as to the motives of the lunatic, the drugs he was on, what his intended targets were and why, and what ideology took hold of him or her. Do others share it? Who are they? With the assailant dead, the only recourse we have is to better understand why something happened, so as to better protect ourselves in the future and to weed out similarly co-opted people. And when the perpetrator is a trans person, and if the unreleased manifesto proves that it was in fact due to a frothing hate and vitriol for straight people, because we refuse to submit our First Amendment rights to the angry mob, well, then we're suddenly surrounded by hundreds of thousands of, sleeper cells. All of them given away always by the claim that words are violence. It will always be the case that you have the explicit right to defend yourself when your life is threatened. But what if the threat is manufactured and a figment of your brainwashed and Swiss cheese imagination? Well, then you've become a ticking time bomb who is a threat to everyone around you. And only more so when coupled with an already hideous mission statement involving the mutilation of kids. And that is why this girl's pronouns mattered. All right. That's my response to Newsweek and a large chunk of TikTok. Okay, now, not unrelated from the article from Newsweek, this is Amala from Unapologetic. She is under the umbrella of PragerU. I'll link her video in the description. This is tightly related to what we were talking about. Let's watch this. I tried to find the video myself. I have reason to believe it's been deleted for obvious reasons. Let's watch.
Let's see this video. Now has 2.3 million views. It says Tennessee trans people resist.
Trans people in Tennessee, it's time to fight. Trans allies.
Language warning. My apologies.
In Tennessee, it's time to fight. Trans women, if they lock you up for identifying as a woman, fight, resist.
Who, what,
You're
where,
gonna
when?
die
Who?
anyways. We're going to die anyways. It's time to resist. Fight them. Hurt them. If they put their hands on you, beat them.
You know, I keep hearing,
it's not happening anywhere.
Allies come out and say, well, trans people are far more likely to lose their lives. They're far more likely to be victims of homicide. I have not found a single statistic that validates that. And
Nowhere.
This person just said, well, we're going to die anyways. From what? From who? Who? please give me the information that backs up what you're saying right now, because I have not found anything that backs up that claim.
We are at an attack. It's time to fight back. Do you hear me? Trans people in Tennessee, trans men, trans women, non-binary, fight! If they try to arrest you or have you arrested on a felony for existing, beat them.
For existing.
Gang together. Get people who agree with you to come and fight.
First of all, is this person holding a curtain rod? Is that a curtain rod? I don't know.
It's either that or some kind of prop that's supposed to look like a wizard staff or something. So hopefully it's not a curtain rod.
I don't know what's going
probably
on in this
would
video. I really don't know what's going on. And there's no legislation that says that transgender people
bedpost
should be
or
jailed
something
simply for being transgender.
Nope, doesn't exist.
It does
Once again,
not exist.
It's words are violence.
TikTok is to ban you for, saying that, I don't know, reparations are nonsense or anything like that.
Yeah.
I hope this person is banned from TikTok for literally calling for violence in the wake of this tragedy. It's pretty insane.
It is, and I bet you it's probably still up. It's probably still up unless people have gone and mass reported it. It's probably still up.
I think it's gone.
Times. And yes, you have to attack the police officer.
What?
Allegedly. But it's time. It's time. If they're going to try to jail and police you for existing, you fight them. You fight them. And if they lock you in prison, fuck up the guards. Bust out of prison.
Holy Christ.
Jump in with other trans people. It's time we organize a prison bust in Tennessee, guys. It's time we organize a prison bust. It's time we start fighting.
And this is probably related to that Trans Day of Vengeance.
Trans people, fight them. We will not let them create a genocide of trans people.
Oh my God.
I am so tired. I was in a live the other day with 2 trans people who denied this. Out of my way. I disown any trans person who disagrees with this notion.
Out of my way, peasant.
I disown any trans person who disagrees with my notion.
Okay, this next article is from Reduxx.info. It's titled Women File Lawsuit Against University of Wyoming Sorority Over Admissions of Trans-Identified Male Who Watches Them Undress. I wonder which one it is in this photo. Is it the 5 short girls or the hulking Goliath behind them? Huh. Okay. It reads 7 women are suing the Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority after it was told to admit a male who identifies as transgender to the University of Wyoming chapter. Artemis Langford, 21, was accepted into KKG following a vote that was held after he submitted an admission form last September. I feel so glad to be in a place that I think not only shares my values, but to be in a sisterhood of awesome women. Maybe I need to go lower. And make history. Langford told The Branding Iron, a local publication where he also employed as a contributor, during an interview last year. They want to break the glass ceiling. Trailblazing, you know. Maybe I need to do more of a, They want to break the glass ceiling, you know. Trailblazing. And I certainly feel as their first trans member, at least in the chapter, in Wyoming history. I don't know. That man. As a member of Kappa Kappa Gamma, Langford, who is 6 feet 2 inches tall, 6 feet 2 inches, and 260 pounds, oh my God, is allowed to live in the KKG house, which accommodates up to 50 women. Though he currently lives outside of the sorority house, he is set to move into the residence within a year, where he would have access to shared shower facilities. Doors to the communal showers do not lock, and the main bathroom located on the second floor is not equipped with a private changing area. Though Langford resides elsewhere for the time being, women allege that he frequently sits in the second floor common area watching the women. An adult human male does not become a woman just because he tells others that he has a female gender identity and behaves in what he believes to be a stereotypically female manner. Reads the legal complaint filed on Monday in the U.S. District Court of Wyoming. It gets worse. Oh God, it gets worse. The fraternity council has betrayed the central purpose and mission of Kappa Kappa Gamma by conflating the experience of being a woman with the experience of men engaging in behavior generally associated with women, like Dylan Mulvaney. Oh my God, I'm a girl. I cried today. How am I doing, girls? Jesus, sweet Lord. The 7 anonymous women, all of them who are either current or previous members of the UW sorority chapter, filed the lawsuit on March 27th against the sorority and its council president, Mary Pat Rooney. It's a mouthful. Langdon is referred to by the pseudonym Terry Smith, more like Terry Crews, in the legal documents, which uses male pronouns to address him. The plaintiffs are requesting that the court void Langford's membership to KKG. I'll bet. Court records reveal that the young women are alleging Langford had been voyeuristically peeping on them while they were in intimate situations, and at least one occasion had a visible erection while doing so. One sorority member walked down the hall to take a shower, wearing only a towel. She felt an unsettling presence. Oh my God. First thing, I'm sorry, that sounds terrifying. But just like, I sense a disturbance. That's what she's talking about. That's what this man is putting out there into the ether. Okay. Okay. She felt an unsettling presence. She turned and saw Mr. Smith watching her silently. The court document reads, Mr. Smith has, while watching members enter the sorority house, had an erection visible through his leggings, the suit says. Other times he has had a pillow in his lap. This guy's tucking it up under a belt 24. He probably not wearing a belt. Okay. The complaint adds that Langford is sexually interested in women, as evidenced by his Tinder profile, through which he seeks to meet women. It is further alleged that Langford took photographs of the women while at a sorority slumber party, where he also is said to have made inappropriate comments. Smith repeatedly questioned the women about what vaginas look like, breast cup size, whether women were considering breast reductions and birth control, the complaint alleges. Langford was supposed to leave the slumber party at 10 p.m. That evening, but did not, saying that he intended to leave after the women fell asleep. After singing to himself at approximately 11 p.m., Langford finally left the residence at midnight, only to return the next morning. At that time, it stated that Langford stood silently in the corner of the room while watching other pledges change out of their sleeping garments. The lawsuit also highlighted a disturbing incident involving one of the women as she changed her clothing. Unaware that Langford had returned to the house, she faced away from the women and removed her shirt. The woman, who was not wearing a bra, turned to discover Langford staring at her after she had put on a clean shirt. Some of the KKG members would later tell the woman that Langford had appeared sexually aroused during this incident. It was claimed that Langford stood with his hands over his genitals and has since repeatedly questioned the woman about her romantic attachments. Oh my God, this is a nightmare. This goes on forever. Langford's membership was made possible by language within a recent guidance issued by sorority leaders on inclusivity. The National KKG Guide for Supporting Our LGBTQ states that Kappa Kappa Gamma is a single gender organization comprised of women and individuals who identify as women whose governing documents do not discriminate in membership, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anyway, that's the story. Okay, we're going to cut it off right there. That's the story. But that's what's happening. I mean, this is like one isolated thing, and while I think that anyone who swims or dips their toe into the trans agenda, there's something wrong. Okay, there's something going on there. Something snapped in the brain, and therapy would be the way to go, and preferably a therapist that doesn't affirm you. Good Lord. But that's something else entirely. Whether that man is wearing a dress or not, he's gonna be doing that. Okay. Oh, and now I'll subject myself to a handful of TikToks for a second time. I don't know why. I do know why. Because maybe it's self-flagellation. Maybe that's what this is. Either way, let's get right into it.
What did this do to you? Tell me. And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
All right. Looks like we've got 3 or 4 of these. What's this first one here?
They say there are 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Well, I'd like to add one more. Revenge.
Okay. That is a school shooting waiting to happen. Okay.
Shooter was a trans, wanted revenge on Christians. Label all trans insane and ban weapon purchases for them. Okay. I've been waiting for somebody to make this comment. I knew it was
I'll bet
coming.
you have.
So we have 2 options here, okay? Number 1, how about when trans people catch up to straight white men, then we can have that conversation. Or option number 2.
Wait a second. I want to read that.
Option number 2.
I want to read that. Where is it? Okay. As detailed about the Las Vegas shooter's identity emerged, media outlets noted some of the characteristics fit neatly with a familiar profile of prior mass shooting perpetrators. Newsweek. Oh, Newsweek. Huh. Well, they're level-headed. Okay, I'm sure he's stating that this guy was Christian. Okay, I'm sure I can't read past this, and I refuse to look this up, but I'm sure they're saying he was a Christian cisgender white male. Okay, but as I said in the beginning of this episode, so what? The man had an ideology. It wasn't based on Christianity. Christianity doesn't teach that. Christianity does not teach to go out and murder people. The man was mentally ill. The man was mentally ill. So you blame it on that. If an Islamic terrorist chooses to murder 50 people, I mean, you can argue that that person is mentally ill, but there's also an ideology behind that that may not apply to every person who subscribes to that religion. I know a lot of Muslim people who are kind and endearing, but as far as I understand it, there is a foundation that, whether enforced or not, relies on... Okay, you get what I'm saying. However, as I said before, for the trans agenda, the reason we talk about it, the reason it matters, is because they're the only group that claims that words are violence. Words are violence. Silence is violence. Dead naming is violence. So when you see violence everywhere, and in the event that you are attacked, legitimately attacked, if I am legitimately attacked, I have every right to defend myself. I'm obligated to defend myself. And so that places them in a unique situation, where if they're really bent on declaring that a Holocaust is happening real time, if they're really bent on declaring that their lives are in danger 24/7, when there's no evidence of that, they are completely left alone, then they're justified and even obligated. They are required to lash out and attack. That is the difference. That is why this is different. There is an ideology that you can link back to. Any person who says words are violence, any person who says words are violence, they are immediately, in their minds, granted amnesty from the act of murder. Any person who says words are violence, it's, in their minds, it's a get out of jail free card. That's why this is different. It's an ideology on which you can pin the act of murder.
Catch up to straight white men, then we can have that conversation. Or option number 2, how about we ban all straight white men from buying guns? If you feel like you need to shoot a gun, you need to be accompanied by a woman to supervise you. Does that sound reasonable? Because clearly most of the shooters are straight white men, so maybe they need to be monitored. And I need to make something perfectly clear here. I don't care who is shooting.
Again,
straight white
men doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was a woman, if it was a man, if it was a black man or a white man or a midget or a child. It doesn't matter who's doing it. Behind it, there is a motive. Behind it, there is an ideology. Behind it, there is a reason. Whether it's something they were taught in their upbringing, whether it's an act of revenge because of something done to them as a child, whatever it is, there is always a reason. And the reason is clear. It will be more clear with the release of the manifesto. So, no, it's not a fair comparison at all.
If somebody walks into a school and shoots some children or anybody, I don't condone those actions, no matter what happened.
He's
that
about
being said,
there it is.
To get revenge on Christians? Why? Why would a trans person possibly want to get even with Christians? Growing up in the Christian church, I know firsthand what abuse looks like. And while I think her actions were completely wrong, I still wonder what drove her to do this.
Holy crap. Okay. Oh, this is great. So he begins by saying, for the record, it's never okay. Never okay. I reject it every single time. Having said that, I think the Christians had it coming. That's exactly what he's saying. I think the Christians had it coming. He is in real time, just as Newsweek earlier, just as all these other TikTok videos, he is actively apologizing for the trans murderer. He is actively painting this thing that says that it wasn't her fault. It was your fault. You know why it was your fault? Because you didn't affirm her. Because you didn't use the pronouns that you were supposed to use when you were at that 7-Eleven one time and some guy with a beard handed you your change and you said, hey, thanks, man. And he went, oh my God, oh. I'm a woman. Can't you tell? No, you're wearing a tie and you have short hair and a beard and I don't see any tits. And right there, whether you're Christian or not, you contributed to the death of those children. It's your fault. Sweet baby Jesus.
Just like I wonder how other school shooters decided that this was what they needed to do with their life. Typically, they were bullied people and they were failed by the school officials. Does that justify murder? Of course not. But it could be a reason why they felt like that was the action they needed.
You can't
to take.
say.
Oh, and by the way, calling them.
What you can. I mean, I'm sure I've done it in the past. But anytime you say, you can't do this, and I'm not apologizing for anything, and that's it. But that but undoes everything. My mom taught me that. That but undoes everything. He didn't mean anything he just said. Not a word of it.
A trans has the same energy as calling black people the blacks. It has very strong bigotry energy, but I have a feeling that was the point. But I do find it interesting that your solution here is to ban weapon purchases. It's almost as though you understand that better gun legislation would be a solution here. Only not just on trans people. Maybe everybody? Because if you're afraid of getting shot by a trans person, imagine how every other minority group feels about getting shot by a straight white man.
First thing, okay, for the love of God in heaven, why is it always straight white men talking about like this original sin? I don't understand. Why is it always like white soccer moms on TikTok screaming about black oppression? Leave that to the people who may or may not be experiencing it, okay? Now, in regards to his other point, what was his other point? I'm trying to think. Oh, he said so much stupid crap. Gun legislation. Ban all guns. Now, remind me, did the police kill the shooter with a screwdriver? Did they lop her over the head with a bat? Or did they shoot her? Huh. Oh, yeah. And that girl who did the murders, did she go straight to that school? Or did she scout out a bunch of schools with one intended target, got there and discovered that they had armed security and said, oh, well, crap, I can't do this here. I won't kill a single person before they take me out. And then she went to another less protected school. Which was it? Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I see what we're doing. Yeah, okay. It's never a good guy with a gun who kills a bad guy with a gun. Never is. And for that matter, I mean, you could make the argument, I will right now in this moment, make the argument that It's already illegal to murder people, right? It's illegal to murder people. If it's already illegal, if it was already illegal to own a gun, and you were bent on murdering a bunch of people, wouldn't you just buy the guns illegally to commit the illegal act that you were already going to commit? You think that it's not possible to get a gun with like a shaved off serial number? Like, this happens every day. Like, I don't know. The logic behind these people is numbing. Let's keep moving. All right, this is from the libs of TikTok. She writes, this is from a drag event in Forsyth Tech Community College where they also invited younger kids. A parent told me the kid getting the lap dance is a 10th grader. Okay. All right. So, pause this. There's a reason that this made it to the libs of TikTok. If that's a 10th grader, 15 to 16 years old, 15 to 16 years old, and you've got a grown ass man with what I assume is his junk tucked into underwear, grinding on you. I don't have a lot to say about that. I said I would. I said I would comment on it, but I don't have a lot to say. I find it disgusting and weird that this has left the confines of late night clubs and found its way into schools of any age. I mean, it's especially horrendous when it's children, as it is here. But even inviting them to colleges and stuff like that, I mean, I guess if you're an adult, it's your prerogative, but you don't know who's there with the age of people viewing, and what does it have to do with school in the first place? What does it have to do with anything related to education? I have no idea. Anyway, that's all I've got. That was especially troublesome, and I'm glad you guys stuck around. Again, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when I'm uploading every time. You'll also find me on Rumble in the link down below. All the links to the things I shared will be in the description, and I'm really glad you guys stuck around. You've been watching Doublespeak.